Welcome to our channel. In this video we will review some facts about murder vs manslaughter. But before we start, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for future updates. Many of us have probably wondered what the difference between murder and manslaughter is. We want to grasp the distinction more than their meaning because we never know when someone close to us will be implicated in or suspected of murder. The increased popularity of crime documentaries on Netflix and other streaming services adds to our interest in the subject. In these documentaries, homicide is frequently referenced alongside murder and manslaughter. What makes them unique? We can't tell the difference between murder and manslaughter as bystanders until we're involved in the case. Most of us are only familiar with the topic because of news or true crime TV series. Real-life cases are frequently included in various episodes of the series. When a murderer is apprehended, he or she is charged with murder or manslaughter under the homicide statute. But how do murderers obtain one of these prison sentences? Why must lawmakers go to such lengths before convicting murderers? What additional words can we use to describe homicide? What circumstances do legislators evaluate before classifying instances as murder or manslaughter? We collated what we learned about the terrible slaying crimes below to answer these questions. The relationship between homicide and the difference between murder and manslaughter. We feel that, of all the crimes we know about, those detained for homicide committed a key one. A fast Google search defines homicide as the act of killing another person. When it comes to sentencing killers, murder and manslaughter fall under the category of homicide. Some argue that the severity of the death distinguishes murder from manslaughter. Because of the word slaughter, manslaughter sounds more horrible than murder to most of us. That may not be the case once you understand how lawmakers define the two nouns. If you watch crime documentaries, you may note how most homicide trials normally run from months to years. To help a jury decide a killer's destiny, those who enforce the law must analyze every piece of evidence. Simply put, learning the suspect's mental state will help you distinguish between murder and manslaughter. If you are accused with accidental killing, you must demonstrate that you had no intention of killing your victim. You must also persuade the jury that you are willing to accept responsibility for the unintentional death. Once you've accomplished this, the lawmakers on your side can concentrate on reducing your sentence to manslaughter. However, if the defense is successful in convincing the jury otherwise, you may be charged with murder. Even if you're not guilty, they're determined to make it appear as if you killed the victim on purpose. The historical context of homicide. When discussing the various causes of death, homicide serves as a neutral phrase. It is simply defined as the act of killing one or more people. You don't have to think about the moral or legal implications right away. It becomes more complicated when you consider both legal and unlawful killings. Legal killings are commonly referred to by lawmakers as justified homicides. A death in this category can occur as a result of self-defense or if the suspect's job mandates them to kill. If you're interested in careers that require a license to murder, we recommend speaking with executioners and military personnel. It's a mystery how they maintain such tenacity while having to end a life virtually every day. If you watch shows like CSI or Criminal Minds, you may observe that most death situations are treated as homicides. They do this in order to assign appropriate investigators to the inquiry. The detectives then establish what form of killing killed the victim. All cases are filed under the broad headings of murder and manslaughter. When a defendant confesses to killing in self-defense, they may consider the crime to be justifiable homicide. However, because law enforcement is always on the side of the defense, this filing is usually only temporary. Murderers, what happens to them? We previously said that the distinction between murder and manslaughter is based on the suspect's intent to kill. In murder, you hoped or planned for the victim's death. This also pertains to murdering someone. If your victim survives, you could face assault or battery charges. However, after your victim dies, you will be labeled as a murderer. The judge instructs the jury in court to examine the suspect's mental state. These cases take time because the evidence must be thoroughly examined. This may include a thorough examination of the suspect's personality and mental background. If the evidence strongly suggests murder, the suspect and his legal team will seek the most lenient penalty possible. Murder cases present multiple forms of convictions, depending on the seriousness of the offense. Depending on the state you live in, different sorts of intentional killing may fall into different categories. In California, for example, offenders are charged with first-degree, second-degree, or capital murder. If you plotted to kill someone, you may be charged with first-degree murder. your legal team may be able to change that to a reduced penalty, such as a felony or second-degree murder. We've included a few of the most common varieties of murder below so you can see how serious each punishment is. First-time murder. We are all aware that first-degree murder is the most serious crime. If you obtain this sentence, your term might range from 25 years to life in prison. On rare occasions, the prosecution may amass sufficient evidence to convict you of capital murder. Most criminals are scared because they may not be eligible for parole or, worse, face the death penalty. Criminals must face prosecutors who are determined to prove they killed with malice aforethought, premeditation, and intent. If you've seen any serial killer documentary, you'll note that the majority of them are convicted of first-degree premeditated murder. Because of the thorough planning involved in the crime committed, the prosecution concentrates on this sentence. You may also be tried for this conviction if you have a strong desire to kill someone. The time of your planned murder is irrelevant as long as the prosecution offers stronger evidence of your deliberate murder. In other cases, bombers or hired killers are frequently charged with murder by specified means. Bombings, assassinations, and drive-by shootings are examples of first-degree murder. In some situations, relatives of school shooting victims intend to utilize this sentencing against perpetrators. Because some school shooters are minors, you may see various disputes on the matter. Second-degree murder. If you are guilty of murder, your major goal is to persuade the jury that your crime is of the second degree. This line frequently confounds people due to the several gaps that defense teams can exploit. Once they've discovered something valuable, they concentrate on proving the suspect's lack of premeditation or intent to hurt. If there is insufficient evidence, the defense attempts to divert the jury's attention by using wrath or insanity as their reasons. In some circumstances, criminals plead guilty to second-degree murder in order to receive a reduced sentence. We can't blame them because 15 years sounds preferable to 25 years without the prospect of parole. In contrast to first-degree murder, second-degree murder is defined as killing someone without any prior aim. As a result, if the prosecution cannot prove intended murder, some defendants may plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter. If you find yourself in the same situation, you may want to concentrate on intent to hurt. This allows you and your defense squad to plan an assault with inadvertent killing. In certain situations, suspects use depraved indifference as their rationale for murder. This circumstance focuses on a victim-caused death or extreme indifference to human life. Murder, third degree. Though rare, third-degree murder cases are recognized in states such as Florida, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania. Most conditions fulfill second-degree murder, thus you might not hear about this conviction in crime documentaries. Plus, the states that still approve murder under the third degree can apply longer penalties for criminals. This is especially true for people who accidentally killed someone while conducting a completely unrelated crime. For example, you may have indirectly caused an overdose death. Your true crime is drug distribution, but you'll also face third-degree murder charges. Another scenario for third-degree murder is a non-violent felony that results in murder. Assume you and your friends planned a robbery or heist. Everything is well until you accidentally kill a disobedient captive or witness. If you are apprehended, the prosecution will try you for robbery and third-degree murder. To divert the jury, your defense team may attempt to focus on your first crime. However, you may have a difficult time convincing the judge to overlook the unintentional death. If you are found guilty, you might face up to 40 years to life in prison due to several counts. Murder on a felony. Because of the intent involved, the majority of felony murders are classified as murder in the first degree. Because of the combined penalties, it may be associated with the non-violent offense of third-degree murder. In some situations, people may face further murder charges in addition to felony murder. Deaths caused by crimes such as rape, kidnapping, and arson are classified as felony murder. If you've seen films on serial killers, you might recognize these crimes. These perpetrators are tried on several charges, which frequently include horrible crimes such as kidnapping and rape. Serial arsonists and rapists may face felony murder charges if their victims die as a result of their acts. Being convicted of manslaughter. Suspects are charged with manslaughter if the death was unintentional. Cases of this sort of homicide result in shorter sentences than those of murder. We already discussed certain types of murder that may also be associated with manslaughter. Most of us may be perplexed by these scenarios because the legislation varies by state or country. Some people regard manslaughter to be a form of second-degree murder and condemn the suspect accordingly. Others retain the death penalty even if the prisoner successfully establishes his crime falls within manslaughter. Manslaughter subcategories can sometimes escalate to situations classified as murder in the second or third degree. In the end, it all comes down to the intent to kill at the time of the offense. Assaults and unintentional fatalities are only a few examples of what courts consider to be acts of manslaughter. Before deciding on voluntary or involuntary manslaughter, the judge and jury consider the entire scenario. Following our descriptions, we included sample scenarios to help you better grasp the two types of manslaughter. Manslaughter involuntary. Because of the elements listed under actions without premeditation, the term voluntary manslaughter sounds perplexing. The majority of accused aim for this sentence by alleging they killed their victims in a fit of rage. We equate this with situations in which defendants claim they lost control of themselves during the homicide. When this occurs, psychiatrists or psychologists are summoned to assess the suspect's mental state. If they fail, the prosecution will charge the individual with murder. If you unintentionally murdered a competitor, you might face charges of voluntary manslaughter. He or she may have provoked you to do the unimaginable during an argument. If they die as a result, you may plead guilty and claim that you lacked self-control at the time of the act. If you pass a psych evaluation, you might face a prison sentence of up to 11 years. Manslaughter without consent. Involuntary manslaughter is defined as homicide with no motive. This is most often applied to suspects who caused deaths without any premeditation. You may recall a case in which the victim was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Criminals who receive this penalty have pleaded guilty to the murder of strangers. Consider hunting in a forest without knowing anyone else was there. When hunting, you often shoot for any moving object, believing it to be the animal you wish to trap. However, you unintentionally fired and murdered someone who happened to be nearby your target. Investigators believe the whole thing was an unfortunate hunting accident that resulted in unintentional manslaughter. Killers are being judged. We can appreciate the meticulousness of murder trials given that we understand the distinction between murder and manslaughter. Most instances in court must be treated as murders since the goal is to deliver justice for the victim's death. Because of the gravity of killings, most U.S. states consider some instances of manslaughter to be murder. This provides more peace to the loved ones left behind by the deceased. However, not all trials progress as intended by the prosecution. Most suspects demonstrate their determination to receive a lighter sentence by adhering to specific types of manslaughter. Defendants try to discover any flaw in the evidence offered as long as it is not first-degree murder. Overall, we feel more at ease when we see prosecutors desire to put killers behind prison. People who cause the death of another, whether through murder or manslaughter, must accept responsibility for their acts. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel, since we will be covering a lot of similar content in the future. Till next time, stay curious.